not the end of the lame jokes. There we go. And that too. I think I also have that. I'm going to repeat a lot of things that most of you have already heard, actually. Nothing really has changed from this group since we last met. But some of the things we have to say, both Seileach and I, are so important that they bear repeating, and especially in this campaign season, you need focus, you need repetition, you need a clear and consistent message. And what we're going to say tonight is going to have a lot of bearing on the election coming up. First and foremost, I consider it a victory that it was about 3 or 4 months ago that our committee came out and said clearly, no more EEZs, end it, delete it, obliterate it. And now it no longer exists. They're gone. In under for most of 2012, that sword was hanging over our head. And folks, it ain't there anymore. But I want to continue on with a theme that we've been talking about for a while right now. It's more than just that. We have to go to the source of that EEZ idea. And by that I mean it was not Fred Schmidt's own idea to wear a sign that said, "Blight me and give me money." That came from Regional Economic Development Incorporated, that shares board members with the Chamber of Commerce, that shares board members with the Community Improvement District. That is the source, folks. And that is the source that still has not really been addressed, and that if I were still your candidate, I would be making the #1 issue in my campaign. I want to tell you right now, though, about the #1 issue that Monta charged our group with and what it has to do with READY. First and foremost, she wanted us to identify funding sources, both specific and general, that could be used for ideas that came not just from our committee, but from all the good work that is happening in all of the other committees. And I am going to touch on that a little bit. I might even ask Eugene and Wayne and some others and Monta to give me some additional details later on. The connection this has to READY is this. And let's be very clear about this going into the election coming up. READY still gets our taxpayer dollars. Every time you pay your rent, your mortgage, your property taxes, sales tax, READY, the CID, are getting your taxpayer dollars. If I were your candidate, and part of the reason I dropped out is that I expect, and I think we will all expect and demand, that Sid is your candidate. We'll say this: not one more red cent of our taxpayer dollars to READY. Not one more red cent to the CID. Done. Over with.
Currently 400,000.
I've heard close to half. We'll call it $500,000. We don't have the specific line items. We will soon through this campaign. First and foremost, that money needs to go to the ideas that come from our committee and the ideas that come from your committees. Now, one area that we've identified is a nascent green chamber of commerce. Apparently Columbia is one of the smallest cities in the entire Midwest that has a green chamber of commerce. When I came from Bloomington, we had the Green Business Network. I know those sorts of things exist, but there's actually now an established green chamber of commerce. In other cities, taxpayer dollars go to alternative chambers of commerce. That is one idea that we have. When we hear about other areas of funding that we need to identify, and talking to Mike Martin, Carl Scala, other people that have been advising our committee, we know that the utility has additional money. That needs to go to homeowners that want to do energy efficiency on their home and make it almost a zero cost expense for them, a zero cost addition for them. Wayne and his group have great ideas coming out for education. That money needs to be reallocated there. Even in talking, in my whopping 8 days as a mayoral candidate, I learned the city is not cash strapped, even in its general fund. Part of the reason it is that it gives away money for suburban sprawl. It gives away money to subsidize generic-looking apartment complexes downtown. That all has to end. Where should that money go to? It should go towards incentives for preserving neighborhoods, historic neighborhood preservation. So we've identified all of these sources. Now, I've hogged up a lot of time at the microphone. It's been a very busy 2 weeks, and I know that you all have wanted to hear from me, my personal story, and also how my work on this committee basically is what propelled me to take such decisive action, as I like to call it, in the mayoral race. There's a whole other side to what we've been doing, though, and that has been about microfinance, about local credit unions. Eugene, you're probably going to have some things to add to this. Fortunately, Seileach has done a whole lot of research on that, and I'm going to turn it over to her at this point, because there's a lot of good info here as well.
I actually don't have a lot because I was researching.
Well, then there's just good info.
Yes, there's good info. John McFarland had some trifolds, which unfortunately the hard copies went astray, but he's going to email me a PDF version of that trifold about an institution called the Public Banking Institute, which basically the kind of community neighborhood banks that we were talking about, the People's Bank, the neighborhood bank here and the neighborhood bank there, instead of these huge globalized horrors that yeah, we all know how they're bad. But the important thing is that we want local banks to keep local money here, that we would basically, while we bank at them, our money is being used for like these smaller loans and the microloans that Sam mentioned could be done both through individual networks of people, but also through these community, these neighborhood financial institutions. To keep the money, the economic viability within our community, instead of sending it off here and there like the globalized current bank model. And John is going to give me that information, which I'm then going to forward on to anybody who is interested, who I have their email of, and Monta has been collecting the main list, so that's basically everybody who's been coming here. Also, we were looking at inviting someone to actually come and speak more in depth about this and explain to us how these kinds of things get set up, and perhaps a little workshop or seminar on that. And John informs me that the Public Banking Institute actually has a speakers bureau of people who go around and give such presentations. So we're definitely looking into getting hold of them. And also there's a gentleman who John identified to us who participated for a long time in the Grameen microfinancing program overseas, and he now lives here in Columbia, and his name is Monty Roulier, and we're going to be in touch with him about possibly if he would be able to come and give a presentation for the public on microfinancing, how it works, and how we might be able to set up some kind of program like that here for our community. Also, another thing we were looking at, funding source, grant writing, which several different places around town offer various courses in grant writing. Some of them I don't have specific information about. MU Graduate School offers a 4-course certificate in grant writing, but you have to enroll, and we don't know if the most basic course can be taken separately. Stevens has a similar thing. Now, the Moberly Area Community College on its online program has 3 basic courses and 2 more advanced ones, and they start a new one every month. And, you know, we have detailed information if people think that they might be interested in doing something like that. Also, right here in Columbia, the Columbia Area Career Center, in its continuing education program, has a course on grant proposal writing basics. It's a 2-session course that's going to be offered in May on a Thursday night and a Tuesday night, and it's $79. And I also have more detailed information about all the different kinds of topics, but it's basically the basics of how to write grants and so on. Anyway, that is one of the things that we were talking about. Being able to set up these kind of workshops so that people can learn how to start their own things and keep their business here in Columbia and help with our economic situation. We are also, one more thing, the DIY, the funding, where we pass the hat, so to speak, and collect money out of our own pockets at every meeting. I don't have a hat, but I have a dish there in my tote bag, and that dish will be coming around, so please give generously, or what you can, because these things are going to help the visioning process committees. Those funds are earmarked to help with things further, and Mata will explain what I mean by that. Because you're able to explain that better than I can, what the different little projects are going to be.
Okay, now I personally